Welcome back. It's known as HPV, a sexually transmitted disease that can potentially lead to cervical cancer. But with a new vaccine approved by the FDA to prevent the virus, the treatment is actually raising more issues than answers. Dr. Sapna Parikh of My Nine Sister Station, Fox 5, has more.
I feel like somebody had just put a knife in my back because I was saying to myself, why me? You know, why me? But then I said, if I had took care of myself a little better, then I wouldn't have been saying, why me?
For 13 years, Joanne Everett stopped getting her yearly pap smears. But 2 months ago, she was diagnosed with cervical cancer.
I never thought about it because I said I had nothing abnormal. I was always healthy.
Cervical cancer is almost always caused by a sexually transmitted virus called HPV, or human papillomavirus. Did you know what HPV was?
No, I never even heard of it before. You know, I mean, you heard of HIV, but you never heard of HPV, you know.
But the virus is extremely common. It affects over 50% of all sexually active adults.
Because it's able to integrate its own self within your own cells, it can manipulate the mechanisms within the cell.
The first vaccine to prevent cervical cancer was just approved by the Food and Drug Administration. It's called Gardasil, and it protects against 2 strains of HPV that lead to 70% of all cases of cervical cancer.
It's one of the most exciting things that's happened in the field of cancer in a long, long time.
Dr. Mary Fatehi is a specialist in cervical cancer at Long Island College Hospital.
It's the one area in GYN oncology that we can actually eliminate and cure a cancer. And eliminate it. This is preventive.
As for Joanne, a vaccine might be too late for her, but she says it's not too late for her granddaughter.
This is something that you're going to need, you know, to help you, because look what happened to Grandma.
But now the question is, should a vaccine that can save someone's life be mandated among girls as young as 11 years old? With me now are Assemblywoman Valerie Huttle of New Jersey's 37th Legislative District and Assemblyman Michael Doherty of District 23. Thank you both for joining us. This is a pretty important issue for not only young girls but for parents around New Jersey. You are trying to mandate this in New Jersey schools?
Yes, our first bill proposal actually did have a mandate clause in it, but the first part of the bill was actually public awareness and an education campaign to actually explain that cervical cancer is the second leading cancer among women. That it is caused by the HPV virus, which, quite frankly, I was surprised to find out that 250,000 women were infected with the HPV, and that after the FDA approved this vaccine, it actually became 100% effective to prevent cervical cancer. With that, we did vet it through our health committee. The chairman of the health committee wanted to get more information. We did hear from constituents, and I think at this point right now, the only mandate we will have in the bill will be for insurance companies to pay for the vaccine. But we are still promoting the vaccine for children ages 11 to 12 to 17, because we must, for it to be effective, we must get the children before they become sexually active.
And that's 11 and 12. That's
Absolutely.
the age group that you are targeting.
Yes.
Wow,
yes.
That is young still. You are opposed.
Yes, I don't think the government should be mandating vaccinations for 11-year-old girls. We're talking about a behavior here, and cervical cancer is very serious. There's about 3,700 deaths from this cancer every year in the United States. I think it's very important to note that the greatest way to avoid getting cervical cancer is to have a pap smear. And from what I've read and studied, 85% of the women who do die of cervical cancer every year, 85% never got a pap smear. So I think that would be a much more effective way to go, as opposed to what we're talking about, a multi-billion-dollar handout to Merck after their heavy-handed lobbying effort. And parents, let them have a choice. If they want to get this vaccination for their daughters, fine. Right. If they don't, that's fine as well.
It seems that in the state of New Jersey, we have had the government come in and tell us what to do and what not to do. And more recent times, it's been what not to do. No smoking. Can't smoke in public places, public restaurants. They're trying to outlaw trans fats. And now they are trying to, or in some cases, they're trying to introduce getting this kind of shot. Is it similar to, I believe it was in the 90s, when children entering kindergarten had to get the chickenpox shot? Is that what it's similar to? Is that what you can discuss it like?
I think, if I may, this vaccine is proven to prevent cervical cancer, and this vaccine will save lives. When we talk about the ages, again, for pap smears, most young women don't get a pap smear until they see their gynecologist for the first time, and let's say they're between 18 and 21. At that point, this vaccine will not be effective because they would already have been sexually active. Statistics show that 62% of young girls, by the time they're high school seniors, are sexually active. Therefore, that is why we need the public education, the chair of the Commissioner of Education, and the parents, and the Commissioner of Health to come together with this awareness campaign. And I think the mandate, whether we do it now or after we try and test it later, I think it's important because there are a lot of people who do not have medical access, do not have the knowledge that, as you saw before, these women aren't aware that HPV, a sexually transmitted disease, can cause cervical cancer. 4 strains of this HPV cause cervical cancer, and this vaccine is 100% preventive, preventing, as I say, the second leading cause of cancer in women.
Let me ask you, if there was a vaccine that could prevent HIV or other sexually transmitted diseases, would you say okay?
Well, I'd like to respond to some of the things Assemblywoman Huttle stated. Let's call this what this is. Merck came up with a very expensive vaccination, the most expensive vaccination in the history of mankind. $360 this is going to cost. You're going to have to get this every 5 years. They went out and spent thousands and thousands of dollars giving campaign contributions to various players. Governor Perry down in Texas got $6,000. His chief of staff was a Merck employee before he became the chief of staff. And they gave all kinds of money out to all kinds of politicians. And now what's happening? We're seeing another government mandate that many people find objectionable on moral grounds, and not only that, on health grounds, because this has never been tested on 11-year-old girls, and now we're going to say you can't go to school unless you get this vaccination. And that's why the American Academy of Pediatrics is adamantly opposed to mandating. Fine. If you want to get this vaccination, be my guest. This is America.
Don't mandate it.
Yes. Do not mandate it. This is another government mandate. It's going to be on the back of the taxpayers for people on Medicaid. It's going to be health insurers with higher premiums, higher expenses for businesses. And that's why there's a mandate
for insurance companies to cover this. And Merck right now is the first company to introduce the Gardasil vaccine. And at the end of this month, in April, we will have another company producing the Cervarix vaccine, SmithKline. Of course, when a new vaccine comes out, it is expensive. It is $360 for a 3-series shot. And hopefully, again, as it's tried and tested throughout the years, and we don't know for sure if there is a booster shot needed after 5 years, but hopefully the price will go down. But that's why the second part of the bill will mandate insurance companies to cover this important vaccine to save women's lives.
Would you, and you are steadfast on, don't make it mandated, offer it, don't mandate it.
There's a behavior involved here. You have to be sexually active. And
does that go along with the education?
Well, I think education is great. But you know what? This vaccination has not been put out on the general public with enough feedback, enough of the possible adverse consequences. And that's why, like I said, the American Academy of Pediatrics is adamantly opposed to mandating it, because it's never been tested on 11-year-old girls. And now, think about it. Your daughter can't go to school without getting this vaccination.
But it is recommended by the American Pediatrics
Let me ask you,
they're opposed to recommended to have that's routine fine. This is America. It's a choice. If you want to get it,
and again,
if you want to get it, by all means, get it.
If the parents want to opt out, there is a clause in there as we're continuing the process, because we will never propose a piece of legislation without vetting the process. So as we vet this process, we will continue to hear from our constituents, continue to hear from parents. And if there happens to be an opt-out clause, all well and good, but at least we're getting publicity right now today on this important issue for young people.
I thank you both very much for joining me. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about this possible vaccination. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Well, next we'll meet one teenage student who is poised to step out of the classroom and onto the Board of Ed. My New Jersey Now continues. Stay tuned.